Welcome to the Tea and Trails podcast, 1 year old today. Oh, hello everyone. How you doing? Seen there's been a bit of snow over there in the UK. Gosh, what a fuss you all made about that, didn't you?
It was awesome though. It didn't hang about. It was really snowy. We had a heavy frost, then it rained, so it was gone within a day.
It was classic.
Slush. Yeah.
Classic. We're only thigh deep here, really, so it's a bit disappointing. But what it's now, it's stopped. We had so much snow, Gary, and the roads. Oh my God, the roads were. The first few drives are always, and then I just relax and I forget about the fact you could plummet to your death at any point on the school run.
How's an electric car in the snow? Never.
It's so. The big van we drive is amazing. I've only slipped seriously twice in the big van, and considering like how much I up and down the roads, I've only had 2 mega like braking, nothing happening slips in the school run or going to ski slips or whatever. The electric car, so the battery drains really quickly in the cold, so it doesn't last as long. And yeah, so the van can get over anything. It literally could probably I could drive it over like a mogul field, but the car is it's just not got the sportiness of the van or the weight, I think. Maybe it's because it's not got the engine, it's not as heavy. So Brynner's already had been stuck once in it, and it's got winter tyres on. So we just use it for main operations out of Morsey, not for the shuttle
main
runs.
Operations.
Anyway, we've got thigh deep snow here, and also now we've got the snow banks outside where they've had to shovel snow like out of the drives, people's drives and stuff, and they pile it out the other side of our house. It's literally the size of the house. It is the kid's dream, because they go behind it with all their Nerf guns and they like make all these dents, and then they just spend hours shooting any poor person that walks past or drives past. Oh, I love it. Anyway, lovely to see some snowy run pictures. And if you did get to run in the snow, I hope you enjoyed it and you kept warm with your layering. Thank you to all our partners who provided discount codes for our ACE Patreons. We've just been counting our snoods ready to go out. We have Precision Fuel and Hydration, Tiki Boot, Mountain Fuel, Outdoor Active, Veloforte, Silver, Active Route, The Centurion Running Store, Protein Rebels, BoardShoes.com, Big Bubble Hats, X Miles, Fawnside Farm Cottages, Yugoku Projects, Red Bear Sports, Summit Crazy, and Ultra Trail 2. If you'd like to save some money and support the podcast and our partners, then please consider joining Patreon. We couldn't do this without you guys. You are amazing. Also, it's not long. Father Christmas will be ringing his bell soon. The kids asked me, my oldest 2 asked me on the way to the bus stop today, have you seen the list? And I said, one of you's on the naughty list and one of you hasn't even made any list because you're so bad. Anyway, if you feel like treating yourself, Father Christmas, pop over to Summit Crazy, where you can buy some amazing Tea and Trails merch.
I can get my Red Bear Sports Christmas technical running top out now.
You totally can. I am looking forward to seeing your erect nipples through that top many times.
I wasn't expecting that.
It just looks quite thin. It looks quite maybe not as warm as, but perhaps you're going to prove me wrong.
Oh, I'll put a little base layer underneath it, talking about last week's show, layer up. Episode 50 this week, we have a chat with Andy Blow from Precision Fuel and Hydration. And it's a theme of knowledge-packed shows after last week. Yes, hopefully you enjoy this week's show. Also, we have Brew the Coaches, Tales from the Trails, and we pop over to Strava, plus Eddie and I share our deets.
Thank you to Precision Fuel and Hydration for sponsoring this week's show. So much knowledge over there. Go and check out their Knowledge Hub, their case studies, their online fueling calculator, and you could, of course, book a free call with one of their sports scientists to go through any of your fueling and hydration questions or plans. We've both done it, learnt so much from it. It's a no-brainer, Gary. Why would you not do that? Jump on a call with them. Patrons get 15% off, and anyone can get 15% off. So buy some electrolytes for the kids for Christmas. Tell them it's like fizzy squash and then steal them back again. Pop over there with the code TNTrails15, all caps TNTrails15, and check out their range of stuff in store.
I know we've both done the Precision Fuel and Hydration call with Emily, but I would, even if they weren't sponsors or Patreon perks and I knew about that feature, I would recommend that to anyone. It's especially because it is free. You just get so much knowledge off the back of it.
Gary loves anything free.
Oh, I love a freebie. And you can find links to all our sponsors and Patreon partners over at www.teaandtrails.com or in the show notes. How are you doing? This is 100% squeaky bum time, Eddie.
Gary keeps asking me all these questions like, so we're getting this person in, we're doing this. And I'm like, Gary, honestly, I just can't focus on any of the future.
Keep it simple.
Yeah, because just keep the chat simple. I can't think about anything else really now apart from the doom of next week. Doom. Hopefully this time next week though, I'll be cracking the crack check. I'll be chomping. I'll be halfway, 3/4 of the way. I'll be in it. Once you're in it, it's fine. It's the opening miles. It's the first 10 miles that are the worst when you're like, oh, I'm a bit tired.
Oh yeah. It doesn't matter if it's a cross country or 100 miler. There's a point where I just think, oh my goodness me, what am I doing?
My God. Just going to get through the first day. First few minutes, first day, let's do this. So yeah, so as I was saying in the intro, we had so much snow last week. So the driving that normally, it's 10 minutes here, 15 minutes here would take like 40 minutes because you have to drive so slow in the snow. And they haven't got all their snow plows out and all the other, there's not just snow plows, there's the gritters, there's also then the people that come. So the snow plow just moves the snow, but then where do you put the snow? You also need the snow clearer. They put it in lorries and then they throw it into the river. And then there's a guy that has to come and tie it because they only clear like one lane. So then there's a guy that has to come. This is a bit I'd like to do. And then he sweeps it all off the side and he makes like the flat spit of it. It looks so satisfying. He just drives a little, and they always look so happy because they have like heated seats in these big snow plows. And I think, I wonder, are you listening to D and Trails? Are you?
I love those little TikTok, they pop up every now and again, TikTok videos where it is like a job somebody does. They could be laying tarmac or something like that. But the way they put it together on TikTok, it just looks like such a satisfying job. Yeah, super interesting.
Sort of talk about satisfying jobs. So we normally have a snowplow that comes into our drive to clear the snow. That sounds terribly like we have a really posh drive. You don't, it's just a normal like drive into the carport because you have to park your car under something because otherwise you wouldn't find it. It would all be frozen. But we lost our snowplower from last year. We've talked about him before. He's the one that dressed as the lady whenever he came to clear the snow.
That's
I'm sure
right,
we talked about him before. These enormous bosoms. Some reason he's not doing it this year. I don't know. Bryn deals with this. You have to sign a contract to get them to come. Because they work out like how much they're going to clear, like by unit square or whatever. And we hadn't cleared it. Bryn was away. And so our snow big thing was this spade that you like push.
Yeah.
Our neighbor, who must be in his 80s, he does his, like he makes it look so easy. I can hardly lift the thing up. It's so heavy. And I'm like, oh my God.
Old man strength. That's what that is.
Oh man, strength. I just could not keep up with the amount of snow and all the clearing. It took me 3 days to clear the drive. I kept getting I do 3 or 4 that honestly, I do 5 minutes and be like, no, I'm too tired for that. I have no physical strength to do stuff like that at all. I need to improve that. I did almost say to Bryn, don't do it because I'm going to get better at doing this. And then I was like, no, I don't want to get better. So that took over my week. Jumped on the bike. There's literally still the running. No. There really isn't anywhere to run. The roads are like sheet ice. I could definitely ski, but I'm too scared to put the ski boots on and ski in case I do something. So I must have walked 50 miles with those blessed 2 dogs who were not enjoying the taper. Last week, couple of runs, lots of core, lots of ankle work, lots of yoga with Adrienne. Yeah, trying not to get too competitive on the bike. Just trying to spin the legs, a little bit of heart rate lift, a little bit of legs move. And I'm like, come on. No.
Surely on Zwift, you can just go, is it Watopia where you can just go for a ride, or are you still entering?
Yeah, but everybody comes past you and it's like, close the gap, join so-and-so. And I'm like, no. Quite enjoying that though the first couple of times I did it, oh my gosh, I had such sore butt cheeks the next day. I had to get on it and then lower my butt cheeks gently onto the saddle and then keep my hand on the handlebars, just pedaling, going anyway, got over that, which is quite good because then after the race, when I won't be able to run for like 3 weeks, I can sit back on the bike and spin the legs. Had my birthday, Gary.
Yay.
What a joy that was for everybody.
How was your roast?
The roast was yummy. Though we were meant to have it at lunchtime and they sent us a message saying we're all going skiing because they opened the lifts early. So we're not going to do roast till the evening. I was like, I don't want to roast. I want it at lunchtime.
What? Yes.
Anyway, it coincided with Tottenham playing whoever, I don't know. So the boys were so happy. I was like, happy birthday to mum. You guys watch the football. But it was actually quite a good match. I think it was also, anyway, I am not wasting my breath talking about football. But we had a lovely roast, had a lovely time. I made like a bandit. I had loads of presents, had some lovely flowers. I had 2 pairs of new, girls will get this, boys won't get this, 2 new pairs of Sweaty Betty running leggings. Oh, okay. Hold the foot, Gary, you're going to see them in action next week. They're incredible.
Are they Larry or were they like Sweaty Betty? I've never
They are,
heard of them.
They are vibrant, super comfy, vibrant, but they're not the sort of thing you buy like just as like, I'm just going to buy that because they're quite expensive. Lots of running relating headbands. Love new headbands. Some pummy stones for my feet after the race. A lovely day. Lots of cakes. We're still eating the cake because I got 2 cakes. Amazing. Awesome. I know. So I've had to give up on
classic chocolate.
I had a lemon cake with lemon drizzle icing and a vanilla sponge with butternut. Buttercream icing on the top. That one I've had to back away from now because it's so sweet. Bryn did the icing like about an inch thick. So the kids are still going on that, but I'm like, I don't think I can eat any more of that. I don't think
Bryn's a bit of a baker, isn't he?
Well, I think he made that with one of the kids. Sort of lost what happened really because the kids started skiing. So I just basically drove up and down said snowy road while they whined about going skiing, they're entitled children. Anyway, and as well as all that, I don't know how I fit in training normally. When you're not training, my God, because I'm trying to get organised for this race, which I'm not organised for at all. There's just, in the back room, there is just kit everywhere. The only thing I've done, Gary, to help you is I've started putting the fuel into colour-coded bags. So like all my electrolytes in one bag, all my like gels in another bag, solid stuff in another bag. And so you'll sort of can just have those in the van and be like, right.
Oh, what I did I'm not trying to give you any tips here, but on my Bob Graham round, I literally had everything I thought I would want at Threlkeld and then a Dunmill.
Oh, I'm not doing that. You got to sort that out.
For God's sake.
No, because not going to do that for every checkpoint. There's like 20 million of them.
True.
So, okay, but you'll know where to find stuff. That is the like dry top. What I did for the spine go was like dry tops in one bag, gloves in another bag, blah, blah, blah. So just doing that, but haven't really... I've literally put the route on my watch and that's it. Need to type up all those, make my little spa. I'll do that this weekend.
Honestly,
and also, so I'm going away next week. So it's a whole week away, not just a week away where I will destroy myself and then not have any brain function. Then when I come back, it's literally Christmas. So I've had to do Christmas before I go. I've done all the presents, Gary, sorted everything, put them all into bags, made all the lists.
Oh, wow.
So that when I come back, it's too late. It's like 3 or 4 days before.
Oh, it's pretty wild actually how fast it's come upon us. I wouldn't. I don't want to undermine Centurion Runners' business model, but I just would not enter a race this close to Christmas. Not a big race, not a massive.
But the only thing
race.
is, like, what I didn't enjoy about the spine was that the whole of Christmas I was like, oh my god. But hopefully, you know, I'll be able to sit back and relax and enjoy Christmas because it's done.
Well, it is. It's right. You know, if sometimes if I've went away for a race and it's kind of been wrapped up as part of a holiday, I always like the race to be at the beginning of the holiday, just so I don't completely stress out and ruin everybody else's holiday.
100%.
Yeah. How's
the body feeling? I just don't know. I haven't run now. I don't know. I've gone off Strava and I'm not logging anything. So I don't know. But So, and I probably won't run now till the race, but I mean, the body feels like a wound up coil of, it's going to be I think having a really good taper for these, like all my little niggles have gone.
You know, spine race has been around for quite a while and things like, Dragon Back Race is a multi-days event, but how long? 200 milers seem to be quite popular. No, I'm just curious.
Are you basically like gaslighting me, telling me that this is easy because everybody does them now?
No, 100% no. It's like almost the 200 miles become the 100, but in my state of mind currently, that is way out of my comfort zone.
So Tristan, who did the Dragon's Back with you, he's doing this. Yeah. And I wondered like how you would feel.
No, my cup was well and truly used up I couldn't. Yeah, I definitely could not. But, well, I think I've said probably only, I think this week, I think I could, if I got the call for cross country, I wouldn't feel too stressed out now. And it's 10 weeks roughly since Dragon's Back race.
Well, we said that, didn't we? 10 weeks, 10 weeks to even like start feeling normal again. So kudos to him for towing the start line, and can't wait to see how the race pans out. I know that some boys will go off very fast, and
Mark Derbyshire's on the start line, isn't he? Is that right?
That's quite interesting to see what will happen.
Well, we'll see. It's super interesting. They've all been around the block, haven't they? Mark Derbyshire's done quite a lot of stuff, and Tristan, it's not like.
And also, he's so fast. By the time it starts hurting, he'll be like 24 hours in. I've already run 150 miles. I'm heading towards the finish now. Damn him! That's
going to be awesome. If it's anything, like the spine race, I just saw a little bit of it when I was at Middleton. Wow, it was epic. It's going to be super good.
What about you? Good week? Good week.
Well, I've been reminiscing and missing Fawnside Farm cottages because they had a dusting of snow over on the lake. So lots of really lovely pictures. Yeah, well jealous. And I've got to say thanks again, actually, to Mike and Stuart. Out of every podcast we have done, I think this is the most feedback I've ever received personally and on the Facebook group. And I think there's been a rush on his book.
We should send him a message actually and say, did the podcast
he'll know,
work?
Surely he'll be getting notifications every time. But windproof jacket sales must be through the roof. And I'm being tagged in Pertex Quantum stories over on Instagram, Stim. I've had string vest DMs. Yeah, it's been absolutely fantastic. So many DMs around the subject. And Joe Faulkner reached out, who is the, head honcho, him and Stuart actually over at Nav4. And maybe we're going to do another show focused around like the kit list, the minimum mandatory kit list. Based on the back of that, it was quite a knowledge-based show. So based on the back of that, I'd be 100% up for doing that again. We were tagged in and somebody kindly shared the link for the podcast awards over at the National Running Show. And I kind of got a bit excited. I thought it was the awards. Well, this was like the nominations. So thank you everybody who's nominated us. Hopefully we make it on the shortlist. That'll be pretty wild to get nominated. We'll just see how that pans out. But imagine that, Eddie, winning an award. I'd be like, we'll get I'm a Celebrity invite, Loose Women.
You'd be like Gwyneth Paltrow when she won her Shakespeare in Love Oscar, and she was like, "Oh my god!"
Oh, I remember that.
Have you ever won an award, Gary?
Yeah, I mentioned last week with Sedgefield Harriers.
You won your club awards,
but nothing kind of big like that where lots of people. This kind of net is quite wide. Yeah, that would be absolutely wild. But I don't think, because of my wife's work pattern, I don't think I can actually go.
Well, let's just see if we even make the show.
Well,
you're always 5 steps ahead. So I've just booked up. I'm like, we didn't even make.
Well, we never make. When we look at the charts every week, because there's some big podcasts out there. There's definitely at least 3 with a larger reach than us. So wow. We'll be punching well above our weight if we get a nomination. But if we actually won something, that would be wild. Workouts. Ooh, let me scroll down. What did we do? And strides. Yes, I always like to do some strides. I did a couple of miles at marathon pace. And I mentioned my fantasy 5K pace. Well, marathon pace currently is fantasy. It's hard to say because this was a run on the trails and I didn't set myself up to have a good workout. I was rushing around, food was poor, and then I set off on this run and tried to do 2 or 3 miles at marathon pace. And although I did do roughly I think it was just under 7-minute miling for those miles, I definitely couldn't do another 23 or 24 at that pace. So yeah, so much work needs to be done between now and it's really hard because I can't chase two rabbits at once. And I do feel a calling for the trails and the fells. But yeah, I think I'm just going to be quite brutal and just get that kind of flattish 2.5 hour long run at the weekend. Otherwise, I'm not going to do what I want to do. I'm not going to train right for Lakeland 100 and this marathon. So I think I have to unfortunately, forget about Lakeland 100 or park it until Manchester's out of the way. Yeah, 5x5 on the treadmill. I was dreading that, but I absolutely love it. And I rinsed myself. I'd give that 11 out of 10 workout, cranked the effort up and just hung on for dear life for every 5 minutes. And this is where, you're saying about the snow and the treadmill and being on the bike. A year ago, pre my love affair with treadmills, I just wouldn't have done that workout. I might have done something else. I may have done some strides if I found somewhere quite friendly. I might have done I've got a 2-minute hill where we live, so I could have done that. But to do a proper 5x5 minute workout with that weather, oh my goodness me, just a gold star for the treadmill. Yeah, super grateful at the moment for my gym membership. I absolutely loving it. And I moved on. I moaned about Robbie Williams. Mark,
did you finish it? We didn't finish the Robbie Williams. We
pinned it off. Sorry, Robbie, I love you, but no, I wasn't going to finish that one off. But Mark Cavendish, and oh my goodness me, that was absolutely sensational. And somebody said, I posted it on my Strava, said you wanted to cheer for him at the end when he got that win. I did, and it really made me feel a bit sad because the emotions I felt watching Mark Cavendish reminded me of when I was a kid going to the football, like when they'd scored a goal. And then I started thinking, I don't remember feeling that emotion for quite a while. so I started getting quite kind of, quite down in the dumps on the treadmill afterwards, thinking, how can I recreate that? Maybe I'll go to the football again, see if but I'm just not interested in football.
We can recreate it next week, Gary. Don't worry. When you feel...
Come on, Eddie. Honestly.
when you get me out that checkpoint at 180, you're like, oh my God.
I remember even as an adult, I remember going to Sunderland sometimes and like these last minute, more under Roy Keane's reign when Roy Keane was there, you get these last minute goals and just from your toes right up through your hair, this wave of emotion. I thought, bloody hell, I've just not had that sensation. But yeah, watching Mark Cavendish when he got that win, and if I wasn't on the treadmill and in the gym, I think I would have jumped off my seat if I was watching it at home. It was
you knew what was going to happen, you still like, and didn't you just feel for his wife? Oh my God, it's
just a big team, isn't it? And it extends much further than just the athlete. Woof. But yes, he had a boozy night on Saturday night. It was
Jerry.
It was a really good night, and I was a bit anxious because I had a big run on Sunday doing the It's Why We Run with Nathan and all the It's Why We Runners. So yeah, I was out for about 6 hours on Sunday, all in all, with the TTT crew. Yeah, thanks. And Ray came over too. So yeah, thanks everybody for keeping me company. And Nathan reached out. He noticed a surge in donations too after being on the podcast.
You guys.
Awesome. Thanks everybody. But yeah, really, I think I might have had about 6 or 7 pints.
I was going to ask. I was like, well done, Nathan. Excellent charity giving. Let's rewind to this boozy night. Let's talk about quantity and what it was. And did you dance on the table?
I didn't dance on the table. No, lots of beer. We started quite early, so I think we met in the pub at about 1:15. So yeah, I was home before Strictly. We were home quite early, so I had a bit of recovery time in the evening. But yeah, I thought 4. And then I had 4 before we'd even moved on to the second pub. So I was thinking, oh my goodness. We had some pizza to kind of water it all down. And yes, at the very end, I said to Aaron, buy me a pint of lime and soda, please. I've had enough. And he came back with an actual beer. I was like, what are you doing?
What does drunk Gary look like?
Well, pretty much sober. So I'm pretty uptight. I'm not a dancer. Yeah, I'm not a dancer. Yeah, you know what you see is what you get with me. I don't.
Are you a lover? Are you a lover when you're drunk? You're like, I love you all. Yeah.
Yeah, I'm definitely not. Definitely, you do get some people who go quite aggressive. I'm not an aggressive drunk. I'm quite a cuddly lover is a bit of a stretch. But I enjoyed it, and I was anxious because anyone who knows as a runner, alcohol and running does not go hand in hand, especially when you've got a big day. And I couldn't just go, I'm not going to do it because everybody else was doing it. It's why we run. So I had to tip up. But the Castlemaine Dean, oh my goodness me. It was like Narnia. It was unbelievable. Snow everywhere. And you were the first people to make the footprints in the snow, which is always a treat. Lots of wild wheeze, the little baby dragon.
Everybody, Gary has taken to calling his penis, let's not muss up, his baby dragon. And he keeps telling me before we record, he's like, I'm just going to have to go and get the baby dragon out. And I don't like that. I find that upsetting. Can you stop? Because I don't like a pet name for your private parts.
Okay, we'll park that.
Just going to go and get the baby dragon out.
Just go get it. Well, I'll think of a new name. Okay. But yeah, I really enjoyed it.
Just say you're going to the loo like everybody else.
I think you brought baby dragon. It wasn't me that came up with the phrase baby dragon. But yeah, I really enjoyed it. I'm glad I had some beers. When everybody's done their big events, we always like together to have because everybody's doing something one weekend. We don't always kind of follow each other to an event. Or one of our TTT crew, he does that Hydrox, that's what's it called? CrossFit, that stuff. So we're all over the place. And I think even one guy, he's got Rosebery Topping Marathon this weekend. So yeah, it was just nice to kind of say we've all had a good year. Let's have a few drinks to celebrate it. And most people came out, so that was good. I got some mystery gifts in the post, which I thought they were mystery gifts, but yeah, it turns out you said. I thought some company were like, oh, I'm going to send Gary some nutrition bars. And then he mentioned them on the podcast. But no, you sent me. Thank you very much, Eddie.
They're not even for you. They're for me.
Well, I have eaten one. I know. I couldn't believe it.
Eaten one? Donut?
Well, because I didn't know you'd sent them. There was no... So I thought, I better eat them.
I'm 80 when I go, can I have one of those bars? And you go, are you going to do that all the way around? When
there's only two left, Eddie.
You can't eat the athlete's food if you're the crew.
Well, I didn't know you'd sent them. So I thought, I need to eat one so I can see, oh yeah, they were
expensive too.
But I did get a nice gift from Ugoku Projects. I got this cap. Did you get one?
Nope. I have got two though. I'll be sporting wearing them on the course. Don't need another one. That was sweet of them.
I never asked them to do that, and they sent a new cap out. So, yeah, lovely surprise. I thought the nutrition and cap fairies had been sprinkling their dust on me last week.
What was the bar like? Was it nice? Because I've not even tried it yet. I just thought it was an emergency. Was it a bit dry?
Oh, no, it's quite chewy. Well, okay. I'm not too sure if there's different flavours in there, but the one I scoffed was nice and chewy. The dates to wrap the week up, about 78 miles, including walking. So I'll take that. All of my workouts, big tick. I love that, especially that 5 times 5 minutes. I was anxious, but really looking forward to it because I just thought that was a big kind of stick the flag in the ground. Where am I at? 2 strength sessions, so slightly better. And just over 8,500 feet of elevation. So
it's a full-on week, Gary.
Considering I'm still in this. So I've gone back to the beginning of the pre-marathon training plan. I'm just doing it twice basically before the actual proper training starts. So considering I'm not training and I'm so focused with my nutrition, I'm not entertaining any cakes or anything like that because normally Christmas comes and I will just put on about a stone. You
couldn't put on a stone. You wouldn't be able to get out of bed if you put on a stone.
Eddie, I can smash some food. Do not literally. I've got no off switch when it comes to food. I've mentioned this so many times, but I think the way my mindset is at the moment, because I just think I think even with Jack Scott, he's like all the things you can do positive outside of training. And for me, the big thing is just keep, I'll eat bloody granola and stuff like that. I'm not really faithful to it, but it's just that overeating. And I think at the moment I'm quite focused anyway, because I just think that's low hanging fruit. If you do that, it's like we say about going to sleep early. Don't be too focused
too soon. No, you've got a long way to go. Don't dial it in too soon because you'll only fall off the wagon and we'll all mock you. I'm looking forward to you putting the stone on over Christmas.
It won't happen. Laser focus this year.
And whatever, you just ate a 600 calorie bar.
I was running at the time. I was running. But yeah, that was my week. 78 miles, all my workouts, a couple of strength sessions, and a decent amount of vert.
This week's Brew with the Coaches is a question from Pete Richards.
I've never run with poles, but I've got the UTS 50 and then the South Downs Way 100 next year. And I think that poles will help me with both of these. What advice have you got for pole selection and then how to get started with using them? Is it best to go to a training session with them or just get out on the trails and learn like that? I come from Pete Richards. Well, I'm obviously no scientist, but I just got out on the trails and leaned back on quite a few YouTube videos. And I don't know, maybe someone who actually knows what they're doing would look at my form and criticize it. But I suppose that is one bit of feedback from me. It worked okay for me, but I did have no feedback. Nobody looked at me and said, Gary, you are being a massive idiot. You're completely using those poles wrong. But yeah, Eddie, what do you think?
Well, I obviously am a polling expert because I poll all season, all winter, all summer with various polls. So I'm just going to tell you a little bit about if people are interested in using polls, when you should use them. They have done quite a few studies on the efficiency, whether they actually work. So they found that only on gradients above about 25%, they actually provide any use. They actually make it, they actually save you on your fatigue levels. The other thing is that they are, if you've ever used poles or ever tried polling, they are actually, you'll find your breathing rate goes up. So they actually require more oxygen because you start using your upper body. So what they actually give you, and in return, is a very fine margin. So they say that they actually can take away 4 to 5% of your running economy. Your stride goes longer. If you've ever used poles, you'll suddenly find you think you're actually suddenly Kylian Jornet. You will slightly overstride to enable you to use your upper body to then pole. And then this causes a difference in your gait, different muscular use, increase use of oxygen. So they also have found, like I said at the beginning, that you have to actually be on quite a steep gradient in order for them actually to provide that. What we're actually looking for when we're polling is to provide saving your legs, basically. That's why most people would use them, saving your legs so that then you see people using them on UTMB, etc., that you save your quads and then hopefully you're going to have a bit more effort. Though actually, I think most people rely on their poles more for stabilization and for when they're knackered, that just literally they're hanging off them. And of course, if you're doing something like the spine or something, and Trish will say this, we actually used the poles not really to save our legs, but they were used actually for, without the poles at the end, most of us wouldn't get off the Cheviots. They were actually like an extra pair of legs. But for something like UTS 50 or for a 100, South Downs Way 100, if you're looking at the science and you're looking at the studies, there isn't actually anything steep enough on that South Downs Way which will actually make a difference to saving your muscles, whether it might be that you can use them if your legs go, but that's a different sort of, you're looking at a different sort of strategy. They also looked at the time spent getting the poles in and out of packs and the faff it caused, and they thought that people lost about 4 to 5% of time by faffing with poles. So unless you're really good at getting your poles in and out of your pack, or if you're doing something like UTMB where the climbs can be 2-3 hours and it's worth getting the poles out, something that is shorter and the climbs are actually relatively short, then you're not going to need them for the downhill, but you still got them in the hand. You're actually going to lose time, which you could save by just running with poles. So that's like the pros and the cons, and that's what they found in the studies. As for your pole selection, there's 2 ways you can look at pole selection. If you've never used poles before, then your elbow wants to be about 90 degrees when you're holding your poles. Again, there's no science to back this up. This is just what people have said. I actually prefer my pole to be higher because I prefer to be able to move my hand up and down the handle depending on the steepness of the gradient, depending on where I am on the gradient. So if you're looking at using your pole for something like a VK or something really steep, you actually want a bit of a higher pole because it's actually on a really steep gradient. If you're looking at more for like, I'm going to be walking a lot like the spine, then you can have that pole a lot lower and allow the elbow to come down. So think about what you're going to use your pole for. If you're going to pole at all, you need to have a strong upper body. The science also says that you need to have trained at least 3 times a week for a month with your poles in order for you to be efficient with them and them actually to work. So there's a lot of sort of maybe negatives going into that, like, do I need them? But so that's the sort of science. But do we need to believe in the science? Do you need to go out and try them yourself? Absolutely. Try them, see if you like them.
You're right about that, getting your upper body condition. I remember Lakeland 100, 2020. Oh my goodness, mate, what year? 2020, 2021. I had DOMs in my shoulders and triceps like I'd never experienced before. So yeah, definitely get that upper body.
When I use my poles properly, like a proper uphill using, I'm out of breath, but I'm really working my upper body. But that takes me I use poles all through the ski season, and then that will take me through the summer. That's why you see the Europeans are so good with their poles, and they are like an extra set of legs. They look so fluid. Takes hours and hours and hours to get that good with them. So from the science, it's like you've got to spend a lot of time with them, get comfortable with them, find out what works for you.
Very personal though. I imagine there's 3 people here definitely done Dragon's Back race. I know Trish used poles. I use poles. Russell, did you lean on poles for your Dragon's Back race?
Not a big fan of poles, I've got to say. It's just a massive fad that's going to be out of fashion in a few years, and we're going to look back and think, what were we doing? It makes sense in terms of snow, ski touring, which is where it comes from, because you're on skis. The human body is 2 million years of evolution. It's perfect. We are the apex, alpha, predator, long distance, superior mammals. And as soon as you put poles into the mix, you're just changing the way you run, losing efficiency. The faff, if it's icy, spine, totally get it. But UTS, they're not going to help you. They're going to get in the way, and they're going to get in my way when I'm running past you because I'm not using them. Just get your legs strong.
You
do the
can use
real
your
work.
pole if Russell does ever run past
Stab
you.
him.
Stab in the eye.
Well, that's the next point, because you'll have snapped them by that point or left them somewhere. The femur is 5 times stronger than steel or something like that. You're perfect as you are. You don't need them. Just do the training, get strong, and do the real work that it takes. I'm sorry, it's good cop, bad cop here.
I couldn't imagine the Dragon's Back race. I wasn't going to take them. And I think pretty much after 2 hours, I'm thinking this was the best decision of my whole life, bringing this. What about you, Trish?
So I'm in the, I would say in the middle. I'm a massive fan of poles, but it's using them at the correct time. So I wouldn't use them for the South Downs Way 100, just because in terms of what Eddie said, the gradient, it just isn't. It's not there. You'd be better off improving your running economy and getting your effort level right and to sustain your running. But with UTS, I definitely would use them, and it's about using them at the right time. So if you're going to use poles, you definitely do need to try and spend some time using them. So my background is Nordic skiing. I did like 3 years of Nordic skiing, and you can totally see why the Europeans are amazing with poles, because it's ingrained from when they're very small to use them as part of skiing. I think it definitely does make a difference utilizing poles, and I think that's fairly. When you look at, for example, all of the top trail runners in the world, there's very few now.
Thank you.
With the exception of Russell, that aren't using poles. So I think that says something. But again, you've got to be disciplined with the poles. So if you're going to get your poles out, if you're going to use your poles and for the steep parts, you've got to make sure you collapse them so that you can maintain your running economy on the down or on the flats, because it will slow you down if you get into that kind of march instead of run. You've got to be disciplined and remind yourself, I can run here, I don't need to hike. So that's a big one with poles. In terms of what you could use, so I use the Lexi poles. A lot of people do. What do you use, Eddie?
Yeah, I'm a Lecky girl.
Yeah.
Yeah, so they're brilliant, super light, super efficient. You can collapse those, and I often don't bother putting them away. I just keep them in my hands and collapse them and go and keep running until when I need them next. It makes zero difference. They're super light. Gloves are super efficient. They again link into that kind of Nordic style, like Nordic skiing type thing. So I would massively recommend those. Super light, super efficient. In terms of carrying those, you could use a quiver or a belt. I use a quiver, which goes in the back, and I put them in like that. I don't know what you guys use. Do you guys use a quiver as well?
I've got a belt, but I fancy a quiver.
It works well for me. Belt works well.
Races, and then long races, I put them in the front of those Monte and I use the elastic bits.
Yeah.
Have them in the front. But really on a long race, once they come out, they're out.
In terms of training with them, if you're not used to training, there's loads of good videos on YouTube. And I look at some Nordic guys with almost a Nordic background, because they 9 times out of 10 have the best technique because they've been doing it for so long. So loads of great videos on YouTube. If you know someone who's good at running with poles, go out with them and get them to give you some tips, because one of the best ways to learn is to see other people do it and to talk to other people. And you can see someone who's got a really good flow with poles because it's seamless. And the last thing I'd say is if you do look at Lecky poles, if you go on their website and put your details in, they'll actually tell you what height is probably is best for you in terms of the pole you need, which can be really helpful. And for 9 times out of 10, that will meet most of your needs for, going up or down or whatever. So those would be my top tips for it. I'd use it for UTS 50. Get all those fast runners like Russell out of the way, give them a quick trip. I wouldn't use it for South Downs Way 100, but each to their own.
We've got to practice eating though. My goodness me, it's really hard eating a bag of mini cheddars when you've got your Lecky poles.
Yeah, definitely some eyes go in there. Like
it's the whole. You've got to get really, in order for them to work and actually add value to your race, you have got to become one with them. They've got to be part of your training schedule, and they've got to be out with you, even if you're just carrying them out with your pack as the study's shown. You've got to use them through a time. That upper body has got to take it and be able to take some of the muscular load in order for them actually to enhance your race. If you're looking for them to perhaps support your race, then perhaps like Gary just put them in his hand and off he went. If you're looking for them for support, if you're actually looking for them to enhance your performance, biggest thing always, as Russell always says, fitness trumps everything. So being as fit as you can and then adding in the poles. But I know lots of people, poles are becoming more and more popular in the UK, and people are thinking
We'll see. We'll come back to this in 10 years.
And the research and
remember those things called compression socks? What? Do you remember the stickers on the nose? Remember those? What?
I've had all of those, Russell.
What will we be doing?
I've done them all.
Yeah, I know, that's hilarious. It's like, what are you doing? Why are you stuffing your face?
Good luck. Let us know. Send us a picture.
Good luck.
Goals. Good luck with your training. That's 2 super races there. That is an exciting year you've got ahead for you.
Best of luck, Pete. I love my Lecky poles. And I know people did do the Dragon's Back race without them. I think the winner, I don't remember seeing him with poles all week, but my goodness me, I could not imagine tackling a course like that without my Lecky poles. Yeah, best of luck. This week's guest is Andy Blow. I'm losing count, Eddie, in the various iterations of this podcast. Is this the 3rd time Andy's been on our show?
I like it. I like that relationship we've got now because, we did an initial get to know you. It's like a dating, it's like your 3rd date. You know each other. You like the initial one is like awkward chit chat. Tell me about your story. Oh, you've got a dog. I've got a dog too. Blah, blah, blah. Then the next one, you're like a little bit more comfortable. And now the 3rd one, we were loosey goosey. We got stuff out of him. We got all sorts of knowledge, bit of laughing, bit of seriousness. I think it's good. I think perhaps we need everyone on for 3 dates.
I had a great time. And, what I like is when you have intelligent people who have knowledge and want to share that knowledge and can deliver it in a way that...
Applying the knowledge in an active situation. Is there anything better?
My ability to retain knowledge is quite limited. So when somebody who has knowledge, but they can deliver it in a way that little Gary can absorb it, big thumbs up from me. Hope you enjoy our chat with Andy Blow. Today, we are joined by Andy Blow from Precision Fuel and Hydration. Thanks for coming on the Tea and Trails podcast, Andy. We ask all our guests, where are you? What's the view from your window? And have you been for, this could go run, cycle or swim today?
So I'm in Christchurch in Dorset in our office that we're about to move out of, actually. We were only moving a mile up the road, but stress levels peaking in the next 2 days because we've just had Black Friday and we're now by a warehouse operation. So it's actually quite nice being I'm in the little side room, just chilling while everyone else is running around like mad. The view out my window is into a really beautiful car park that's on the industrial estate next door, but in our new office.
I thought you were going to say, I can just see seagulls.
No, it's a crap old car park. Looks slightly broken and full of potholes, but we're trading it in for a new view out of the new office, which looks out. It does look over a mainish road, but if you look over that, you're looking out to fields and woodland. So that's going to be a lot nicer.
And do you manufacture? Is the whole process? Do you manufacture and have your office under one roof?
Not quite, no. So we manufacture in lots of different places, actually, all around the world these days for different markets. But our main warehouse operation and office are sort of next to each other here, so everyone's not quite under one roof but close enough, so we're in both buildings every day, and then we have different warehouses around the world. So we have warehouses in America, Canada, Germany and Australia, as well as the one in the UK.
I put it in there, sorry. Have you been for a run, cycle or swim today?
Yeah, I got out this morning actually in the dark with my head torch on, cheeky 8K around the streets. I've been avoiding some of my local trails until really recently because they literally run underwater.
Oh my God.
Unbelievable flooding because we're quite not far from the river, and there are a few that I went for a run down one of the tracks last weekend before last, and it was like being in a river. I was up to my sort of mid-thigh at one point, and I thought this is not good training or, in fact, any fun whatsoever.
And what's it like? I'm really curious. You are a retailer in the sports nutrition space. Black Friday, is it just completely wild?
It's pretty mental, yeah. I mean, there's a lot of people in the industry put very aggressive discounting on. We don't do that. It's the only time we do a site-wide discount of the year, and it's not a particularly aggressive one. But I think a lot of our regular customers, and shout out to all of those, if any of them are listening, a lot of people like to stock up at this time because it makes sense, because we figure that heavy discounting and like making things a race to a bottom on price doesn't really benefit anyone. We as you guys know, we provide a lot more than just sports nutrition with the advice that we give the team of sports scientists that we got that work with athletes and all the rest of it. And it's what people pay for the products is what helps us to be able to run an operation which puts out high quality stuff like that. So, but it is mental. People, and we all do it, I'm sure, as consumers, everyone's hitting the sales on Black Friday. So our orders have been super high. And yeah, the team here have been, if we'd have put heart rate monitors and step counters on them in the warehouse, there'd have been ultra distance performances put in over the weekend.
But it is the sort of thing as well, like electrolyte, you can buy that in bulk because you just know you're going to always use it. It's not something that you like, if you're buying a flapjack or something, you might be like, well, I'm not really training for anything. It might go off, or I'm not sure when I use that. You get those electrolyte tabs and you just know any time of the year, every single training session, you're going to need them. And if you get a discount of them, and also because you often buy them in bulk, so the order can be quite expensive, but you only need to do that order every so often. But then if you get a discount code, I bet lots of people went, that's actually quite a great saving.
Yeah, and we did free bucket hats or beanies.
I saw the bucket hats, a little bit.
They were
because you love a bucket hat.
I love a bucket hat, yeah. So, and it's white, because when I Dragons Back Race, I had a black bucket cap on, like a massive idiot. I was just soaking up all that radiation. Sunset, white one would have been.
Remind me, Gary, but we need to get a couple in the post for you guys.
I'll rock the Lakeland 100 with that one. Yeah. And I'm going on all these retail questions before we get into the nutrition. Does the retail space, is it seasonal? So maybe from now until, I don't know, would say January, February, will it go pretty quiet, or is it steady throughout the year?
Definitely a little bit seasonal. Not as much as it used to be for us, because we sell a lot in Australia and we sell a lot in the southern states in the US and in South America and that sort of thing as well. So their seasons either are obviously flipped upside down, or it's less seasonal in Florida. It's still pretty warm at the moment.
Yeah.
But yeah, we definitely see seasonality, because UK, Europe are big markets for us, and sales, and also just the concentration of races. People aren't doing as many races. So
yeah.
I think, it does mean that we can take a little bit of a breather over the Christmas period, which is nice, actually, because I know that a lot of retail, in more traditional retail, is really busy at Christmas. And I think I would not enjoy that with my family, and with everyone. We try and unplug a little bit, and just so we're recording this right at the end of November, and sort of we're limping through till mid-December now, and then then for a few days.
Okay, right. We'll get into it a bit more. It's not the first time you've been sharing the mics with Eddie and I, but it's the first time the Tea and Trails podcast. If people who are new to Andy Blow, could you share a bit about you and your background?
So I got into sport at a young age. I played football, like most lads do in England, and at some point it transpired I was probably better at running without a ball at my feet than with a ball at my feet. So I was doing cross country for school and that sort of thing. I was never actually all that good, but I don't know why, but I figured out early on, or it was all about endurance sport is a lot about persistence, isn't it? And I seemed to get something back from being persistent and keeping going where other people wanted to give up and that sort of thing. And I think when I look back, I was quite into that for whatever reason. Doing the cross country and a little bit of swimming eventually led me into getting into triathlon. I took triathlon pretty seriously for a number of years. I was desperate to go to the Olympics or win the Hawaii Ironman. Sadly fell catastrophically short of both of those goals, but I did race at a reasonable level. I got a few top tens in some Ironman races and other bits and bobs, and did throw myself at sport full time for a while. I studied sport and exercise science for a while I was doing that at the University of Bath, and I developed an interest in nutrition and specifically in hydration because I had loads of problems as an athlete myself with sweat loss. Racing in Hawaii, for example, I had a terrible performance, and a lot of it was attributable to the fact that I sweat a lot and I lose a lot of salt in my sweat. So I would really suffer in hot conditions, and because I was so motivated to improve my own performance, I spent a lot of time researching and learning about that in a roundabout way. That is what eventually led to the formation of the business that was Precision Hydration, that's now Precision Fuel and Hydration, because I figured that what I'd learned could be useful for other athletes to know and help them not go through the same sort of struggles that I did. And also it led to the development of products, which is now our sort of the main thing that we sell.
Yeah, when it's been your journey and then to pass that knowledge on to other people, that's really generous of you. I'm really curious, though, 2023, now that you're consumed within the nutrition space, sometimes I was a model maker. I studied art. As soon as I kind of worked in the space, I didn't do it anymore. My kind of hobby became my job and I stopped doing it. But for you, what is racing like? What's 2023 look like for you?
Racing wise this year, I have pretty eclectic racing goals these days because they tend to be like opportunities that present themselves, and I sort of sign up for them if I feel like I want to do them. The best race, I did two really good races this year. I did a swim run race down in Cornwall with a friend of mine, Neil Eddy, who's an athlete that we sponsor, who is considerably faster than I am. So it was a pretty challenging day out to keep up with Neil for as long as I could.
Are you tied together, aren't you, on a swim run? Oh my goodness me.
Yeah,
that sounds dreadful.
Thank goodness for a stretchy elastic rope because we'd have gone left behind. But we actually managed to win that race. I would say at least 85% because of Neil, and 15% because I was just there on the day getting dragged along. But that was good. That was really good fun, especially because I beat some of the younger, fitter lads in the office because I basically used my brains instead of my VO2 that one by having a better partner.
Brilliant.
But the best race I did this year was an opportunity that popped in fairly late, and it was a relay running race called the Euro Trip that went from Cologne in Germany to Strasbourg in France. So it was about 400 kilometers. It was a team of 8 people. And this team got thrown together by a guy called Matt Fox, who has a YouTube channel called Sweat Elite. And we've done a bit of work with Matt, helping him with his fueling and hydration for marathons and things. Matt put this team together and asked if we wanted to be involved with it. And I said, that sounds amazing. I want to do this. So it's just like it's a bit like the race called the Speed Project from Los Angeles to Las Vegas, if you've heard about that. There's been a bit on the news about that. It's kind of a fairly free flowing event. Everyone starts in one place, finishes in another. You can pick the route entirely yourself. You can change over whenever you like. So it's not like a relay where there's set legs. We took 3 of the guys from the office's support crew to drive the vans. So we had 2 or 3 vehicles. the team, and then we started off running 10k chunks, and then as we got more tired, we'd run like 8k and then 5k, and by the end, it took us over 21 hours or something. We were doing like 500 or 600 meter sprints.
Oh no!
And leapfrogging the van in front. We were neck and neck with another team, but the other team had chosen a different route. So if you imagine on the map, like, we're coming in, our little dot on the map is coming into Strasbourg from this direction. Theirs is coming in from this direction. Everything was telling us like this is going to be right to the wire. So you race 400 Ks and it's going to come like right to the wire. So we're sprinting into Strasbourg along the main drag, and when it gets to that close, like the dot on the GPS is not going to tell you anything. It's like the resolution is good enough. And we got into the park where the finish was, and the organisers are there, and we crossed the line, and it wasn't totally clear at first, but then they said, yeah, we'd won. And 14 seconds later, the other team came steaming around the corner and crossed. And kind of hilariously, not for them, I think they thought they'd won at first. So we saw this like massive emotional roller coaster happen of like, oh, we finished, and oh, we've just been beaten, because they led for most of the time. What made that event so special was actually nothing to do with winning. Winning it was the icing on the cake. But for me, we got thrown together with a bunch of really talented runners, some from America, some from Europe, UK, or South Africa, like all over the place. This team like came together 24, 48 hours before the actual event kicked off, and gelled like a bunch of people. I've never been, in a team environment quite as up for it as that. It was such a great experience. We made very fast friends with everyone in the squad. There's still a WhatsApp group that's live off the back of it. It was brilliant, absolutely brilliant. And the night out afterwards was something that gave me for about 4 days.
So many questions.
There's a YouTube video of it, so I'll send you the link to that. You could, if anyone's interested, you should post it. But if you want a cool race to do next year, sign up for Euro Trip.
You put me off the minute you said we started doing 500 meters and 600 meters, because it takes me 20k to warm up, so I would be
It's reminded me of when I did the Harmos 110 relay, and our tactic was we just divided the course by 4. So we were all doing huge, like 30, I think I did over 30 miles, while other teams were doing like, say, 10Ks. And quite apparent, I was like, oh God, I think we've done the wrong tactics here. But luckily it paid out and it was okay in the end. But yeah, that's wild. It sounds absolutely
amazing wild. How high a pace you can hold. I think we ran the last marathon in under 2:20, by letting it down into little chunks. And I don't think there were a couple of really good runners there who were probably about 2:20 marathon runners, but on average, we wouldn't have been in that sort of zone, so it was good.
Well, that sounds ace.
I'm still not signing up for it. I'm not running. Let's jump back into life as a precision fuel and hydration boss. And we thought we'd start right back to the basics of people that are perhaps thinking a little bit about, perhaps they're just getting into their ultra journey. They're just learning how to fuel. They're just learning how to hydrate, or perhaps they're coming to you with like, well, I'm struggling to fuel. I'm struggling to hydrate, and so my body's not responding well. Can you tell us? We thought we'd start with like the principle of the 3 levers of nutrition performance, because I think it's really good for people to educate themselves to start with, rather than just going, oh, I think I need that. I think I need that. I saw that on Instagram, like start with. And I love that about your webpage and your whole ethos as a company is it's all about athlete-centered education. So we just start with perhaps explaining to people about the 3 levers of nutrition performance.
Yeah, the 3 levers, as we call them, are the 3 most important components of any in-race or in-training nutrition plan. And that's carbohydrates, fluid, and if you need them, salts or sodium electrolytes. And that's because although nutritionally the body needs loads of other stuff to stay healthy in general, when you zoom into what you burn through and what you require when you're exercising hard, it's carbs for fuel predominantly, because you do burn fat, and you may even burn a bit of protein, but your fat stores are so vast, even in a skinny person, that they'll last for a very, very long time. Carbohydrate stores will only last for a couple of hours. You're burning through those, you need to replace them. You're sweating, so you're losing water, and obviously there becomes a point at which dehydration will affect your performance if you don't replace that fluid. And in that fluid, there's a lot of electrolytes, but the predominant one is sodium. salt. It's not quite, well, it is salt in your sweat. It's not purely sodium, it's sodium chloride, but sodium is the main element you need to replace because that's when you're losing the largest quantities. So if you learn to sort of pull those levers, as we call them, effectively by replacing an appropriate amount of carbohydrate in the right format for you, an appropriate amount of water and an appropriate amount of sodium with that water, then if you get those three things right, then you're probably 90% of the way there to really getting your nutrition plan right. And we have this saying that we use a lot in the business about finding things out by like ever decreasing circles, because you start into a new thing, like you've not really run long distances before. There's all of this information that you need to understand, and it could be about training and pacing and equipment and what races to enter and all the and nutrition is part of it. And as you sort of unpeel the onion, you get closer and closer to understanding what really matters. And with fuel and hydration, people get quite overwhelmed because there are, for every 100 people on the internet, there are 100 different opinions, 90 something of which are spurious and crazy. And you by going in ever decreasing circles, where we got to was like, right, well, if an athlete can understand at the core of it how much carb they need per hour, how much fluid they need per hour, how much sodium they need per hour, that is where you're going to get most bang for your buck. It's not about whether your gel is a special kind of hydrogel or a normal gel. It's not whether you're sort of taking some B vitamins that supposedly boost energy, or even things which do work like caffeine and stuff. And I know you guys want to talk about caffeine at some point, but carbs, fluids, salt, if you give an athlete the right amount of those on schedule throughout an event, all other things being equal, they're going to perform well. And that's why the kind of educational material that we put out, the free fuel and hydration planner on our website, aims to help people get started on that journey. Because if you go and use our tool, you can punch in the distance of the race, how fast you're going to go, the weather conditions, and it's going to spit out some plausible numbers for you to tell you how much to start experimenting with. And everyone's going to be a little bit different, and there's going to be, our planner isn't going to get it like nailed on exactly right all the time. But even I know with my own background, I'd done sports science, I'd competed a lot as an athlete, but when I stepped up from short distance triathlons to Ironman, I had no idea how much carbohydrate to take per hour. And back in those days, I was reading like magazines from the States, and it really wasn't very clear to me what I should be.
Gatorade, that's what they used to say. Just drink Gatorade.
You get heavy sweaters, salty sweaters. Are there outliers on the other end of the scale? Just, I suppose, referring to my case study that you guys did for Dragon's Back race, one of the things that said I was probably fighting a losing battle for the amount of electrolytes I was taking on board during the week. And I'm curious, I felt okay. But the outliers on the other side of the scale too.
What you've got in people's sweat outputs as athletes is you've got what's called a bell-shaped curve. If you take the population of athletes, and in the middle would have your average athlete who sweats an average amount and loses an average amount of sodium or thereabouts. And then as you get further and further out, I'm on the right-hand side of that graph as someone who's got a very heavy sweat rate, and I also lose a lot of electrolytes. So my replacement regime needs to reflect that in the sense that I have to take a very aggressive approach to replacing fluids and electrolytes when I race. If you go down the other end of the bell curve, you've got people who sweat very lightly and or lose very tiny amounts of sodium, and they would sort of drown in the amount of stuff that I drink and take in or sick. And if I've copied their regime, then I would be dehydrated, parched, cramping, hyponatremic, whatever, I would be in a real mess. So there's figuring out, and part of the thing that our fuel and hydration plan does is kind of ask you to grade those things. Because people, if you've run a bit, people generally have an appreciation for whether they're a heavy sweater or a light sweater. They might not know actually quite as accurately how much salt they lose, or unless you lose loads, where you can see it on your kit and face and that sort of thing. But understanding that there are those differences is actually a really useful starting point, even if you don't know what they are, because all of a sudden that unlocks the potential in your head of going, well, I can't just copy what someone else is doing. I've got to figure this out for myself, So to your point, Edwina, a lot of our educational material around the hydration is around figuring out, not trying to give you generic guidelines, which is, I think, where a lot of people go wrong. It's more about trying to get you to figure out, to understand how you need to hydrate for your body, and also in the conditions that you find yourself running in. And I'm always fascinated by ultras in the sense that Ironman triathlons, for example, often take place in warm places. They're a constrained period of time. They start a little bit cooler in the morning, but they finish in the hot part of the day for most people, unless they're going on into the evening. With ultras, I went to Western States this year. It's literally, I've got a down jacket on, and then later in the day, I'm getting sunburned. It's huge. So learning to adjust your hydration strategy, not only based on your physiology, but also based on what the environment's going to throw at you on a day, I think is a huge piece for trail runners.
Oh, it's ever a learning curve, isn't it? You think you've got it right, and then Let's talk a little bit about when it goes wrong. When I had my chat with Emily, one of your resident sports scientists, I was going to her with the problem that the last couple of races I'd had ended in a terrible cycle of vomit. And she said, she made me feel like, don't worry, Eddie. She was like, 99.9% of people that come to us is because they're not getting it quite right. And it's vomiting. Vomiting is the problem. And once that starts, it's so hard to come back. But you can come back from it, but it's very hard. And it's very hard to implement in training, because not often athletes say, my training session ended up in vomiting. What advice, and it is a lot of messages we get from people as well, people asking questions over on our Facebook group as well about what to do if they feel sick, they can't eat, or they do start being sick. Any advice to anybody who perhaps is finding that, or perhaps might find themselves in that situation in a race?
You're right. Being sick in races is relatively common, I would say, in ultras. Certainly some people suffer with it way more than others and find it to be a really individual problem for them. I would say that if we zoom out and go, well, there's probably 2 or 3 main reasons why you might be being sick. One of them might be that you're taking too much of something. That could be too much. Quite commonly, it'd be too much carbohydrate for you during a period of time. But it might also just be too much water or too much salt, or an imbalance of those, or a kind of imbalance of the whole 3. So, because one of the reasons you might be being sick is simply you've put more in than you can digest, and it's going to come out again, because that's the only way your body can sort it out when you're on the move. So understanding how much you are taking per hour compared with how much science and experience tells you need to take per hour is obviously a useful starting point, because it's a very different story. If someone tells me they're being sick on 30 grams of carbohydrate an hour versus 130 grams, we've clearly got to go looking for different reasons. Then the other reason why you might be being sick could be to do with either the specific type of food you're having, or food or drink or whatever it is. It might be something in the ingredient profile that doesn't agree with you, in which case that becomes a little bit of a process of trial and error with elimination of certain things. It might be like, every time I have X or Y, that seems to be a trigger for it. That could be to do with certain brands. It could be to do with certain real foods. It could be to do with single ingredients or that kind of thing. There are, for example, people that really don't get on with artificial sweeteners. And actually that doesn't necessarily tend to make them sick, but that can give them gas and sort of diarrhea and that kind of thing. So sometimes, and it's relatively rare, but sometimes you find that by eliminating those sort of things out of your intake, if it's not an amount of stuff, it could be something very specific that you're taking that's not agreeing with you. There probably are more than this, but the third one is something in that mix of the things, because too much carbohydrate without enough water, you might actually be able to absorb a bit more carbohydrate if you're better hydrated, because when you start running, when you start sweating, you get less blood flow to the gut. If you become dehydrated, that gets even worse. So putting in loads more gels when actually what you need is water or fluids or electrolytes can also precipitate sickness. So you've got to look at those different scenarios. Sometimes they overlap. It's obviously quite complex. You could be taking too much and you could have the mixture a bit wrong. So a lot of it comes down to really, really good note taking, really, really good detective work in terms of working backwards and trying to figure out what are the common things that are triggering it. And I totally agree with you that in ultras, it's really difficult to pin down if you don't do many of them, because sometimes you might only do 2 or 3 major races in a single year. So you don't get too many chances to really bottom it out. But if you haven't got really good notes on what you've had and how that's made you feel, and then tried to push yourself with some of those scenarios in bigger training sessions, then you haven't really got the information to interrogate it. I'm sure Emily will have said something similar to you along the lines, but it's like, just you've got to be prepared to go through a pretty lengthy period of trial and error in order to get it right. But I'm convinced that in most circumstances, unless there's something medically wrong with someone, you could find ways around it.
Tailwind were very big on the market, and that was drinking the carbs, and it was the tagline is, it's all you need all day. And I've been a fan of Tailwind for different things, when you don't want to carry fuel, when you want a liquid-based fuel. But we talked quite a lot recently, and I don't know whether it's something sort of you've sort of come across this recently, or I'm only just becoming aware of it, of decoupling your carbohydrates and your electrolytes. Not only does it make it simpler than to track, but I found by doing that, it just makes my tummy feel so much happier. And I get the signals of being hungry and or being thirsty, then don't get mixed, which I think was probably where I was going wrong before that. Do you think you could share with people a little bit about that, sort of like the decoupling of things to make it simpler to fuel?
It's a really good point. Yeah. So the idea of decoupling isn't anything particularly new. It's been talked about and a lot of people practice it. And what it means is that one approach to your fueling and hydration is to put everything in a bottle or a solution and take it all in one. So your carbs, your fluids, your salts, the sports drink, like sometimes that can be, if it's warmer weather, that can be a lower concentration because you're going to drink more and you get more calories by drinking more. Other times you might have to make it way more concentrated if you're in cooler conditions. And that's probably one of the areas where people don't get it right, is that they just have one mix and they assume they're going to use that mix in 3 degrees in the Peak District and 33 degrees in Namibia, and you can't, because you're not getting the ratios right. So by decoupling, if you imagine these R3 levers, you can pull them to an appropriate level. So in a hot race, your fluid and sodium levers can be pulled really hard. You could be drinking, let's say, 1 litre an hour and taking on 1,000 milligrams of sodium, but your carbohydrate lever might be stuck at 65 or 70 grams or 90 grams or whatever your number is. But by having 2 gels to give you, or 3 gels to give you 90 grams of carbs, and 2 bottles with 2 electrolyte tablets to give you your fluid and sodium, you can dynamically adjust them, because when that race started early in the morning, maybe you were just needing 1 bottle and 1 electrolyte tab, but you still needed your 90 grams of carb. So you get to, it's like the graphic equalizer on your old 1990s stereo, where you did the bass, the treble and the fade or whatever.
That bass up till your dad went.
Get the bass.
So you can get it all right, rather than just turning the volume up and down. You can.
That's why it's so important to know what you're doing, rather than just and that's what I've learned so much this year, is rather I always just did what I've always done, whatever the weather.
I think like 100, everything I was consuming had carbohydrates. There was no break from it. And it led to, the race was okay, but it did lead to vomiting. And I just couldn't tolerate what I would class as real food, like sandwiches and stuff like that. I could consume gels, but as soon as anything like a sandwich or some crisps or a quiche, it didn't go well. But then fast forward with the advice from Emily to Dragon's Back race, where I decoupled them. And I don't remember, even in that heat in Wales for 6 days, I don't remember feeling nauseous all week. So it was a big revelation for me. Many years of bloatedness and feeling sick, and then just a 20-minute conversation. Never really seemed to improve.
Right. We spend a lot of time chatting with people who have been doing the same thing over and over. And the weird thing is, occasionally it might work, and that could either be just a sort of law of averages, in that if you're taking something and the conditions and the pace and everything on that particular day kind of align with what your strategy is and it works, then you get this kind of false reassurance that, okay, well, this is my strategy now. And if you don't modify that strategy for different conditions, places, and even different days in your own body, I mean, I'm no expert on this by any means, but I definitely have done a lot of reading about things like the influence of the microbiome, and the fact that, relatively speaking, that's a new area of interest and research for scientists, especially sports scientists. But clearly the microbiota in your gut is going to affect how you digest things, at what rate, how your stomach feels. And that's always changing. That's always in flux, because there are just some days when I feel like I can smash gels all day long, and other days when it makes me feel a bit icky and I need to change it up or something. What I will say as well, as a slight counterpoint to the three levers, or the separation thing, is working with elite cyclists in the last couple of years. We've been working with the Lotto Destiny team, who are Tour de France, pro tour cycling team. What has amazed me is learning just how much those guys rely on liquid calories. Like they'll take a lot of gels, but they take lots and lots of bottles of fairly concentrated sports drink. And the defining factor there for me with them is that they practice with that like all the time. They do that in training. They train a lot and they train year round. And from what we've seen, I've just come back from a training camp for a couple of days with one of the Lotto riders in Malaga in Spain. And he is literally fueling. He's not fueling at the same rate because he's not riding as hard, but he's fueling with all the same products every day that he's using in races. And that's all year round. And I think there's a level of like gut training and a level of becoming comfortable with the routine that works. Sometimes people have bad experiences with particular products for good reason. But often I think when people come and say, oh yeah, no, I tried this, I can't use this product, but I can use this product, I often think it's just like, look, you've had one bad experience with that, probably because you've used it inappropriately. Because to pull it back to the basics, it's sugar, fluid, and salt.
Yeah.
It's nothing that your body is not really particularly used to in the majority of these things. So what you've got to do is understand you're getting the numbers right, understand if they're appropriate for the conditions, then practice, and your body will adapt to a degree and get used to it.
Maybe somebody can't just justify the budget to use nutrition all through the year, but if you had, say, got a big race, would there be a time limit? You would say, look, you really need to start practicing and dialing in your nutrition.
Yeah, we always say like 6 to 8 weeks in the build up to the major event is the one, really, because that's based on nothing more specifically scientific than a bit of experience and the fact that a lot of physiological systems, if you want to see improvement, you've got to give things like 6 to 8 weeks realistically. Yes, some things happen faster and some things take years, but provide the body with a stimulus, give it 6 to 8 weeks, and you'll hopefully see some improvement. And that gives you enough time. For instance, if you're trying to up the amount of carbs you're taking per hour, starting with 60 grams an hour 8 weeks out from the race and then progressively nudging it up to 65, 70. And I'm not talking about every session, but like your longest, hardest run of the week, like fueling it a little bit more as you build up to the race is a really good idea. And even, let's say you were aiming to get up to 90 grams in the race, I would advocate for getting up to 100 grams the week or two before in your final long run, so that you've got a bit of headroom, a bit of comfort to step back down again, because the anxiety and the stress and the pressure of race day is probably going to make your stomach a little bit more sensitive. So like going up and then tapering back. And, that's, again, I feel like that's something which when you hear it, you probably go, yeah, that's probably makes sense. That sounds quite obvious. But I reckon the amount of people that do it is very, very small.
Yeah.
And that don't fuel enough. And that's why it's so important to keep that meticulous diary. It's one of the things I always ask clients after we start, miles before that 6 to 8 weeks. Tell me what you ate on the long run. Tell me how you ate, and then tell me how you felt. Tell me how you felt afterwards as well, because that's often when you get your fueling right. And I would say, like, if you're training for an ultra and you're 6 to 8 weeks out, you've got probably like 3 or 4 sessions when you're doing a steady mileage of which you need to fuel during the week. You can't start, if you're doing continuous sessions, you need to fuel pretty much every session and see every session as a way to practice, a hard session. What can I stomach? What can I take in? What do I feel like? And a long session, how does that change? What do I need? But fueling throughout and fueling right to the end. And I think people, and this is from my own experience, they do a 3-hour run and they fuel for 2 of those 3 hours because they think, you don't really feel like eating in the first 45 minutes. And then you do like really good hour and 90, and then you're like, I'm almost home. Cup of tea, toast is waiting at home. Fueling right to the end to just push that gut all the time to keep practicing it. Or you can't, yeah.
Sorry, Edwin, but to enhance your recovery as well.
Exactly.
Because if you're still eating and drinking up to the end of your session, you're not digging into your endogenous carbohydrate stores. You're not getting more dehydrated, so you recover faster. I learned that as a training dad, because it used to be that I could get home from a long run or a long bike ride on a weekend, and crash out, and be pretty useless on the sofa. You don't get that luxury when you've got 2 kids and 10 who need to go to football matches and gymnastics training or just do Lego or something like that.
You just need to be, and you walk through the door and you go from athlete to parent, and you need to, that switch gets turned straight away. And if you feel, I like 10 minutes as I'm running down the hill back home, I'll just take a couple of the chews and just be like, I know then that I'll get my recovery shape, but I might not, I'll have to feed everybody else first. It's lunchtime or whatever. So fueling right to the end. Right.
Well, yeah, I'm curious with caffeine. I am trying not to have much caffeine at all in my diet just because it really doesn't agree with me. But is there a difference in the caffeine I might get from a gel as opposed to drinking my flat white at Costa at the weekend? Because that does not agree with me, and I really suffer from that. But I really would like to benefit from caffeine during a race, but I'm just terrified to do it.
Yeah, so I think caffeine, you're probably one of the 20 or 30%, Gary, by the sound of it, who don't get on particularly well with caffeine. I think the majority of people tend to find that it's either neutral or gives benefits, and some people have the downsides. In our family, like, I'm the one who can cope with and derive benefit from caffeine. My wife really can't. So we have a fight about whose beans go in the coffee machine from time to time.
Sounds like my house.
Yeah, but caffeine is a stimulant, and obviously a lot of the problems people have with it tend to be gastrointestinal, because it increases the motility of the gut. So basically, it can make you go to the toilet. It can also make you feel quite jittery and anxious if you don't metabolize it very well. But if you're one of the people that does benefit from caffeine, like, does it matter where you get it from? Not especially. If you get 100 milligrams of caffeine from a gel or from a flat white, then it's 100 milligrams of caffeine, and largely your body's going to deal with that in the same way. The difference is you can't guarantee or even work out often how much caffeine you're going to get from a cup of tea or a coffee. You can guess, but the type of beans, the way they've been prepared, the water temperature, there's loads of things that might affect, and the volume that you drink, all of that is going to affect. So sports nutrition caffeine isn't any better than caffeine you might otherwise intake in your life, but it is more accurately dosable, which is why having a gel with caffeine in it or a caffeine tablet or something like that is often preferred for athletes. Again, it's about knowing your numbers. 3 to 6 milligrams per kilo of body weight is the sort of performance range for caffeine. That doesn't necessarily apply strictly for really, really long races where you might take more over time, because caffeine accumulates and it has a half-life, so it sort of degrades in your system. And obviously if you take a caffeine boost at the start and then you're topping it up regularly, then you're trying to play the game of keeping the levels up as opposed to letting it taper off completely. So, and with really long races, sometimes, especially ones that go through the night, we do advocate people sometimes lay off the caffeine or minimize the caffeine early on in order to experience a hit from it. And say, for me, it's always like 2, 3, 4 in the morning is like the sort of dark witching hour when your hormonal system wants you to be asleep. And so if you can then, with that Euro trip run, I didn't have any caffeine during the day whatsoever, which is really unusual for me. And then sure enough, like during the wee small hours, I started popping a few caffeine gels, and maybe it's partly
in line with the 500 and 600 meter sprints, and you were
absolutely going for it. Yeah. So I think using it, one of the things that people don't necessarily always get right with caffeine is the timing of ingestion. It takes about 45 to 60 minutes to peak in your bloodstream. So in marathon runners who save their caffeine gel for mile 23 are often buzzing after the finish line without knowing it. You need to take it. You want to be taking caffeine 45 to 60 minutes ahead of where you might want it to kick in. I mean, that's a bit of a whistle-stop tour through like caffeine use, but we've got a series of 3 or 4 really good blogs that talk through all of that on our website with a lot more detail if people want to learn more specifics, I guess.
It's interesting that, because you make a good point that you don't really know the dose of my venti from Costa coffee. It must have so much caffeine in that as opposed to what a dosed gel would be. But I was hoping you were going to say, no, gels are fine, it won't upset your tummy at all. And then I could smash them all the way through the Lake 100, but it looks like I'll have to practice that too.
You got to try it out. It might be, some people do react a little bit differently to it when you're exercising, rather than when you're sitting around having a coffee. But I would say very much so part of the process. The first blog in our series is actually called "Should I Be Using Caffeine or Not?" because to answer that very question.
Let's jump into some Patreon questions. We've got 3 lined up for you, Andy. They're going to come at you thick and fast. Nicole Frisbee, she says, I've been wondering what the implications might be for someone with high blood pressure and using electrolyte salt tabs as part of their hydration strategy for ultra running, given the advice to keep salt intake low. You must get asked this question.
We do, yeah. And it's a really good question. And I need to also probably say that we definitely don't give out medical advice. And if there are reasons why your doctor in particular has said you need to keep a low salt diet, then you would at least want to pick the conversation up with them before you decide to do anything different. What I would say though is that most advice around taking in low amounts of sodium for people with blood pressure are not necessarily targeted specifically at active people, because when we advocate for people taking more electrolytes and more sodium specifically during exercise or around exercise, it's to compensate for higher levels of loss.
Yeah.
So in actual fact, if someone got it about right, they wouldn't have a net sodium balance. Their net sodium balance wouldn't be going up. We're just suggesting that when you're sweating more and if you're losing a lot of salt, you might benefit from taking more salt. What I will say is that we've had a number of athletes who've been advised to eat very low salt diets come to us complaining of lots of issues which are consistent with becoming deficient in salt. So maybe they're getting muscle cramps, low blood pressure, those kind of things, headaches, feeling a bit lousy. On occasion, if they've cautiously reintroduced some salt or some electrolytes around exercise, they feel a lot better for it. But that's definitely got to be approached on a case-by-case basis. And if, as I say, if you've had medical advice to reduce your salt, it's not on me to sort of say to people, yeah, just go for it if you're sweating and training. But it's worth considering, it's worth opening that conversation. We've actually, again, I've said this a few times, but we have got a really quite a detailed and specific blog all about that one. So I can definitely share that one with you to pass out to Nicole and anyone else who's got the question. But it's, for me, if you think about it more broadly, it's a bit like in line with calories. Like the general calorie recommendation for the average person is, let's say it's 2,500 calories a day. Well, if you're out that day doing a 35-mile long training run, like you're not really going to cut it on 2,500 calories. So, you know, the advice is there. It's very generic and it's for sedentary people. Often as athletes, we need more calories, we need more fluids, and we need more salts than the average person. So as long as you're cycling that around periods when you're sweating and losing a lot, it could be that you're okay to take some more in and see how you feel.
I'd say, Nicole, you're a prime candidate to go and talk to one of the, to Emily or one of the other sports scientists and run. If you've got concerns, you could run past what you're planning to take in as well and your exercise, and they could have a look at the balance as well. Let us know how you get on, Nicole. Really interesting question.
Yeah. Next question from Patricia Keane. I have read that training in a sauna up to 10 days before a race in a warm country. That's how the Finnish say it. In a sauna up to 10 days before a race in a warm country helps your body to regulate your sodium loss. For example, you don't lose as much sodium in your sweat. As your body learns to retain the salt, would you need to test your salt replacement strategy after sauna training? P.S. I'm running a 102k Tamawera Ultra in New Zealand in February, brackets their summer. Oh, wow, that sounds a super duper good race. Yeah, it's interesting, that actually.
Good question again. So when you expose your body to the heat, whether exercising or not, but even more so actually, if you exercise in the heat, your sweat does adapt. You sweat more. So the starting point, there's an internal thermostat in the body that tells your brain when to release the hormones to start you sweating. And when you adapt to the heat, that set point for the onset of sweating drops. So in other words, you start sweating earlier and you actually sweat more, because what that allows you to do is cool off more effectively. So that's one of the things that happens. Your sweat rate goes up. There are studies that also show that you can conserve some of your sweat electrolytes, including sodium, because there's an adaptation that occurs there hormonally. But what I would say is that in our experience of testing people before and after periods of heat training, it's certainly not the case that everyone's sweat sodium changes super dramatically. Like there are papers out there that show reasonably big losses in some groups of people. We've got a lot of practical experience testing athletes before and after periods of heat training and have not tended to see as big movements. And some of those movements are kind of counterbalanced by the fact that your volume of sweat goes up. So your sweat might be slightly less concentrated, but you're sweating more, so your net electrolyte loss is high. I think if you've got access to it and if you're interested, getting yourself sweat tested before and after a period of heat training is a super cool thing to do. And as I say, we've done a lot of it. We did a load of it last year with the DSM professional cycling team, who were curious about this particular question because they were doing lots of heat preparatory training, and all of the literature told them that their sweat sodium level was going to drop. We didn't see it. And one of the theories on that was that these people are very fit anyway, so they're always living in a perpetual state of relative
dehydration.
Heat adaptation, because when you sweat, when you train and I was out running this morning, it's like 5 degrees, but I'm sweating, so I'm stimulating adaptations to dealing with heat. So I think if you're doing a reasonably high training volume, I'd be curious to hear from people if they have sweat tested themselves before and after and seen dramatic differences, because I don't think it's physiologically implausible. It could well happen, but in our experience, the differences are, even if there are differences, they don't tend to be practically significant.
Last question from James Alexander. Is there a way to recycle the PFH packaging, especially the gel packets, or are there any plans to do this? I was collecting, cleaning and sending them away to a company that would recycle them, but they look like they've stopped the service. The larger precision fuel and hydration are great, but still generate a lot of waste and are not always practical for shorter events runs.
Yeah, it's really tricky one. It's one that's really tricky across our entire industry, actually, is the sustainability. On the one hand, you would say that compared with single-use plastics and other materials in other industries, like we had the big change, didn't we, in the last few years with plastic straws, for example, in place where literally, I guess it was to be like hundreds of millions or billions of those things get used. Now, like energy gels, even though we use a lot of them, I'm not sure that the volume of waste is as dramatic, but that's not to say we shouldn't be trying to reduce waste wherever we can. The reason that they're really difficult to recycle is that they often use laminate fabrics, so they're sort of sandwich of different materials put together in order to deliver the product to you in a way that's robustly protected from the environment, so that when you open it, it's not gone off, or it doesn't open accidentally if you squish it, or that. So there's this trade-off. I think at that level, even we're a growing company, but our ability to impact that at the moment is limited to working with the big manufacturers of the kind of materials and packaging that most of our industry uses. Yeah. And so we definitely have these conversations all the time, and are always looking. We looked at some compostable wrappers and things like that, but when you really dig into that, at the moment, they're not good enough to protect the product for long enough to make it really saleable. The actual level of they're not compostable in the fact that you can just lob them in the bush as you run past. They require special conditions, and you have to bag them up and send them somewhere for composting. So it's not really viable at the moment. One of the products, I did grab one of these, was to show, because I think that's what you might have been talking about. We brought out this product this year, so Flow Gel, which along with a soft flask, so that this is the equivalent of 10 of these. So it's 300 grams of carbs, 10 of these gels. The gel is a little bit runnier, so it's the same ingredients, but the way we manufacture it is different. And then what you can do is you can pour that entire thing into here and reuse this. So then you're not generating waste, and you're not carrying things which you need to litter, which carry the risk of littering on the trail. We've also got a bike bottle for it. So the flask and the bottle have got graduated marks, so you can see roughly how much you've consumed on a run. And I've been using this on some of my longer runs. It's been really good. So we're trying to do some things which are both practical and sustainability reasons make sense. It's a little bit cheaper as well. This is cheaper than 10 energy gels, so everyone benefits from that. But they're the kind of moves we're trying to make in a space which is actually pretty difficult to make solid progress in.
I love that bottle. I don't have to use my Sharpie anymore to gauge the gels. That's good. So cooking up anything, Precision Fuel and Hydration team, apart from a major move to the new towers? Anything else being cooked up in the back rooms? We are working on a variant of our energy chew that is more like
don't change it.
No, the original, the chews main. They're very popular, but we're looking at a bigger chew potentially, like more like a bar. So we've got prototypes and we've been testing those because I think a lot of people are using a lot of them, and again in a bid to reduce some packaging and also make it more convenient.
Yes.
And we're looking at that. We're quite a long way down the road of that. Whether or when that will launch in next year, I would imagine kind of middle of 2024 would be an estimate if we decide to go for it. We'll be doing a bit on our digital tools on the website and that sort of thing, because we've grown our team this year with a couple of new web developers coming on board to help improve those sort of things. And they'll be the main improvements that people will probably see. We've gone through a massive phase of new product development in the last few years, going from hydration to fuel and then bringing out loads of different fuel products. And we've always got little ideas spinning, but we're also aware that we're not looking for, I think a lot of sports nutrition companies are looking for the latest, greatest gimmick, really. That's not us. We're more now taking the set of tools that we've got and saying, okay, how can we get better at working with athletes to explain their usage, to get them to use them properly, because that's where the performance gains come. No one's going to find an ingredient out there which is going to suddenly revolutionize everything, although people will try and they'll market that and some people will buy it. We're trying to stick with the fundamentals. So yeah, although that's not the most exciting answer, that's what we're very focused on, is iterating our way to doing things that we're already doing better rather than trying to do anything crazy.
So there's no plans for a precision fuel recovery and hydration just yet?
Not yet. No, we get asked for that a lot.
I bet you do.
Saying no. I keep saying no.
Yeah.
One day we might say yes. But,
I've got to say a big kind of thumbs up for the chews though.
Oh, the
Talking about Dragon's Back race, it was 30 plus degrees all week, really hot, and they held up fantastic for the whole 6 days. Yeah, smashing product. Loved it.
And also, you said I'm going to go against your big bar that you're making now, but I love the fact that they're so small because they're not intimidating. When you're feeling, as I do, mostly sick for most of the races, and you're thinking, or you're tired and you're like, I can't be bothered to eat anything anymore, but they're just a little nugget, but they're 30 grams. So you're like, all I have to do, put that, chew, and I'm done for half an hour and I'm good to go. I like this fact that they're size, and because they're so small, you can fit about 20 in different pockets.
I look forward to them. It was sometimes in the heat and over a week you get that food fatigue. And yeah, I don't remember once thinking, oh God, please don't beep watch. Not another chew to consume. Yeah, they went down a treat all week.
With the chews, we can't keep them in our house really because they just get inappropriately eaten.
Are your kids old enough? Because my kids use them for like pre-football matches when they're like got an hour journey and then they like slam a few chews. And I'm like, these are an expensive, your kids, you should be having Haribo. Yeah,
I actually do give a box of the packs of chews to the manager of my son's football team, and they have them he's 9 and they have them at half time or they have one before the game. So, yeah. Good.
You don't think about that as a kid. We certainly didn't think about any sort of fueling strategy or anything. And now my oldest is playing 90-minute games. And I'm like, he's the only one with his precision. I sent a picture to Gary and all his mates are with their like football club bottles and he's got his precision fuel and hydration. He's got his electrolyte in it. And I'm like, proud of you, son. Proud. Good job.
It was sliced oranges when I was a kid, half time.
Donuts and that thick squash.
All right. All right. Clock is ticking. I think we've got time for the quick 5. Okay. 6. Actually, Andy, yeah. Do you have pets in the house? You got a dog in the house?
No.
Okay.
None.
We can move on from the first question.
Regular requests. There's a running joke in the office about me and dogs. Dogs and me. Sadly.
Oh, end this interview.
Cancel sponsorship.
I know. It was all going so well.
Yeah. To put it this way, even like last week, I'm staying in a house with one of the cyclists from Lotto because we're on a training camp, and he's got a dog. And as dogs go, it's a cute little dog, very friendly. The first thing that happened to me, the first time I'm staying downstairs in like the basement area, and I walk up the stairs first thing in the morning, and he's left me a little present on the top step that I nearly trod in my sock.
Oh no, I wouldn't like that dog either.
Why would anyone invite an animal into their home and then have to deal with that sort of thing? Like, I'm not.
You do have to deal with stuff like that if you have animals, yeah. So if you don't like it.
Yeah, so no dog questions.
Moving on then. Okay. You're just getting cozy in the evening. You've got the Netflix on. What is your guilty TV pleasure?
That is tough. I really don't watch too much at all. One thing I can't hold myself back from when they come out, I save Netflix up when I'm on long haul flights if I get bored of writing blogs or doing whatever we're doing. And I always download Rick and Morty from Netflix when there's a new season comes out. So,
I'm keen on that. That's animated, isn't it?
Animated. It's sort of like adult. It's quite rude. It's quite crude. It's very, very.
I think my children were watching it when they're about 10-year-old. I should have stopped that. Fantastic. Okay, we all know you are the king of nutrition, but what is your favourite post-race drink?
Oh, usually if it's hot, I really enjoy like a cold, crisp lager. Actually, if it's been a hot day, if it's been a cold day, a mocha.
Like, yeah, a lager. Visualize a lager really quite often on a race, but at the end, it's like, I don't fancy it. I don't fancy it now. Okay, you are in the heat of battle in a race. You go through a gate on a trail. Do you slam the gate behind you? You can see a competitor, actually. They're not close enough for you to stop and keep the gate open. But yeah, do you swing it wide? Do you slam it shut? Or do you pause and let them pass through the gate?
So there's no way I'm pausing to let them pass through. I don't think anyway. So this actually happened in that running race that I was doing the other night with the head torches on. I kind of like leave it to gravity and
leave it to God.
That's the answer. Yeah.
Universe to sort it out. Like I don't deliberately slam it. I don't hold it open. I just keep running.
Give it the big swing. Was it Andy Berry? Give it the big swing, and what'll happen?
I wouldn't give it a big swing either. I just get through it, and then you hear it clink, and then you know how far they are behind because you hear it go.
Especially in the night race as well. I was like, we were running across this ridge line, and there's loads of gates. I'm like judging. The clink in front is like how far have I got to go to catch that guy, and then the clink behind is how stressed should I be?
Okay, we're going to go back in time. What posters would we see on your bedroom wall when you were a teenager?
Definitely some football ones from Leicester City, and like the Panini, albums where you had to.
I do. They're everywhere upstairs. All the backs off them, the stickers everywhere. Half the cards missing.
Yeah, and then embarrassingly, as I got a bit older, I say embarrassingly now because of what's happened since, but I had a couple of really good inspirational Nike posters about Lance Armstrong, the cyclist.
Didn't we all?
Didn't date well.
There was one. What it said was, which really didn't date well. It was him riding his bike in the corner, and it said, "Everyone wants to know. Everyone's asking me, what am I on? What am I on?" Something like that. It said, "I'll tell you what I'm on. I'm on my bike, busting my ass 6 hours a day."
Oh no!
Really really aggressive kind of. And I thought, yeah. And of course, what he was on was EPO, and on his bike.
I don't know how they got the front. Oh my goodness me. It's unbelievable.
Well, it's a whole ad.
Who was playing for Leicester then when you were a kid?
Well, I definitely know Gary McAllister was because I got his signature. I think Gary Lineker might have been just before when I was young. Yeah, I remember Gary McAllister because I did this soccer football camp at Leicester City in the summer, and he was the token player who'd obviously been like dragged in on his day off to sign a load of autographs and do some keepy ups in front of a bunch of spotty school kids, and I managed to get his signature.
Gary McAllister and Gary Lineker too. All the Garys. There's not many Garys now, is there? But everyone was Gary. That generation. Okay, last question. As when we share this podcast over on Instagram, we'll pop some music to our Instagram story, but it's your choice, Andy. What song are you going to go for?
What am I going to go for on that? Let me just have a quick look at my playlist and see what I was listening. I listened to some good stuff on my run this morning.
What was the last song you listened to, Eddie?
Good one.
I'll check what mine was.
Tell you what came on, and it came on. You know how sometimes songs come on like perfectly. I ran quite hard this morning, and then as I eased down at the end, "Island in the Sun" by Weezer came on. It was just the right tempo to sort of like ease it back home. So I think occasionally, if that had come on mid-run, I'd have been skipping it, but right at the end, it was perfect.
Excellent. Okay, we can do that. We can make that happen. Awesome. Well, it's been a treat, Andy. I've enjoyed it. Hopefully our listeners have learned something too. Yeah, thanks for your time today.
No, thanks for the invite. Always enjoy chatting with you guys. We shouldn't leave it as long next time.
Let's break that 3-year cycle.
Next time your hair will be down to your shoulders again.
Maybe. Yeah.
Thank you so much. Good luck with the move and have a lovely little Christmas break as well.
Thank you. You too. Cheers.
Take care. Bye.
Always a school day. Love learning on this podcast. It's like a continual professional development. Thank you so much, Andy, for coming on, showing your time. And next year, we're looking at doing some more podcasts with Emily, their sports scientist, who have helped Gary and I. And so keep your eyes posted for questions that we can put to Emily as well. Thank you, as ever, to Precision Fuel and Hydration for sponsoring the show. Don't forget, even if you're not a patron, we'll forgive you. You know, times are tough, but you can still get 15% off using caps lock T and Trails 15.
It's your first order, wasn't it? I don't think you can just keep using that. I think it's your 15%, 15% off your first order.
Your granny's first order, your dog's first order.
Yeah, just keep on setting up new accounts.
Gary, this is going to have your back. You'll be in all sorts of trouble.
No.
No, edit.
Tales from the trails. And first off, we go over to our Strava club. I think there's like 1,600 people over in our Strava club, so it is buoyant with members over there.
Strava has gone down. What the hell was this messaging thing, Gary?
Oh, I saw this. I've not.
You know how I feel about messages, WhatsApp messages, DMs, Facebook messages, emails.
So I could send you a message, just like a text message.
You can try, and I tell you what, I will not even read it. Hi, Eddie, have you read the message? Hi, Eddie, have you done that?
Check your inbox. I've seen it. I don't.
Why do you need to message people? No, Strava, I love you, but I'm rapidly falling out of love with you because it's too much. Like, I used to just use it. I used to have a private account and just use it to track my own running, and I'm this close, Gary, to doing that again because it's all too much noise. I don't need to. I love you all, but we don't need to message each other via Strava. What? WhatsApp message if you need a quick reply or you want to invite me to a party, of which I won't come to, but thank you for the invitation.
When you get a WhatsApp message and you think you should respond to it, sometimes I don't look at it so the person knows I haven't seen.
I have to do that every day because I'll be like doing all the taxi services and my phone will be going ping, 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 ping. And I'm like, and it sometimes comes up on my watch, but I'm like, I can't, if I look at it, I'll forget that that's there.
Yeah. You need the notification to stay.
And then I sit, Bryn always laughs because I'll come home and I'll be like, right, I'm going to go through all these messages before I get out of the car, especially if I'm in a nice electric heated car, because otherwise then they just back up. Anyway, this is first world massive problems, isn't it? But I did feel, and then one of my friends sent me a message on Strava going, I know you're going to hate this.
Brilliant. I can't see me using it. Anyway, we need to get back on track.
Sorry.
Aaron Robertson topped the mileage charts with 184.1 miles. Aaron's going to be a future guest on the podcast that he's been running. Get this, everybody, a marathon every day for 2023. That is like the heaviest flex. And if you look at Aaron's Strava, the bars, oh my goodness, how do I phrase it?
Phrase it carefully. We've already had a discussion both about your nipples and your nipples.
I let out a little bit of wee when I saw his Strava. When I saw his Strava bars, it was awesome. Straight line, very impressive. And he had his dogs for company too. Love it even more. Yeah, we'll be sitting down with Aaron on the 19th. So if you're paid up, there's free. I didn't realize this over on Patreon. You can be a free Patreon. I'm not too sure what that.
Tell people that we're not that.
I don't think you get anything for being a free Patreon. So yeah, anyway, if you're paid up, been getting tight over on Patreon. If you're a paid up member of Patreon, you have a question for Aaron, like, why would you want to run a marathon every day for
what does he feed his dogs? That's my first question.
Yeah.
Does he feed his dogs? Does he do? Oh, I've got so many questions.
But yeah, send the questions over to hello@tandtrails.com. Yeah, 184 miles. And surprise, surprise, he had the time on feet crown 2 with 36 hours, 9 minutes and 2 seconds. He must have been a late comer to our Strava club because I think he probably would have won all of this all year long. And yeah, over for the elevation, David Hanna, 18,642 feet. I'm pretty sure David was a top 10 finisher at last week's Cheerid Goat race. Yeah, well done, David. A massive shout out to everybody who towed the line. Did they strike gold? Because super crisp, super lovely, really scenic, as opposed to the miles and miles and miles of horrible Cheviot bog. Anyway, it looked stunning. Sub-zero conditions. Kudos to everyone who towed the line, and kudos to the event team and the marshals and all the safety team. It's a long time. It's a long event. I'm not too sure what the cutoff is, but yeah, if you're a mountain rescue guy or a checkpoint team, woof, yeah, kudos. We salute you. 18,642 feet for David. Well done. Well done, everybody.
Talking about saluting people, we have reached our year anniversary of the podcast, Gary.
Can you believe it? 12 episodes. I thought we'd see how we went.
Well, I kind of was like, let's just do it and then walk away gracefully. And you've just kept reeling me back in.
I'm like a terrier.
Anyway, we popped a post over on Facebook to say, anybody have any highs, any lows? So instead of reading your tales from the trails this week and your lovely reviews you leave us, we thought we'd read some comments of people, what people have said, their highs and lows, the bits they like, the bits that make them laugh, some emotion, some lovely stories about how the podcast has helped people in really tough times as well. This is from Trisha Brunn. Just wanted to say a huge thank you for all you do and for keeping me smiling. You've accompanied me through this toughest summer of my life. You're incredible. I was out running and listening to Eddie tell the story of the bird visiting her in the spine when I got the phone call to tell me that my mum had died. I think of Eddie, her granddad, and now my mum whenever I see the little bird. Oh, Trisha, we send you lots of love and glad that we could have supported you through what sounds like it's been a bit of a tough time.
Richie Bunn comes in with his favourite moment. Gary not minding two grown men fisting each other. Only in the ring, Eddie. Only in the ring. And then Trisha Bunn comes in with, how many times have you watched this clip now? 100-ish. Oh, I'm glad I made. I'm only in our contract. I'm only allowed one joke a year, so I'm glad I went.
We only got one joke, and it was a good one. It was a good one. Our brew with the coaches come in with a lot of love too. Ed Fraser really likes Russell. Lots of people saying we really like Russell. We might like more Russell. No. You have plenty of Russell. You don't need any more Russell, guys. We have to keep him on a slow drip feed because of the heavy edit needed. Lots of love, Gary, for our mantras. Lots of love for our mantras. Being kind to our future selves. Lots of standout moments. Lots of people love the spine episode. Kim Cavill, Ellis Bland, Grant Smalley comes in with a lot of love. Susan Chambers writes, how time flies. Love Tea and Tail and proud to be a Patreon member. Thank you so much. All the chitter-chatter between you two fabulous people. She's ranked us, Gary. Are you ready? Here we go. Professionalism, 10 out of 10.
Yes.
Questionable.
I'll take that. I'm not burning the midnight oil when we press stop.
You are. Knowledge shared, 10 out of 10. Top tips shared, 10 out of 10. Keeping it real, 20 out of 10. Humor, yes. 20 out of 10. Oversharing, generally priceless. And Gary, never doubt how much I promote Tea and Trails. As a chatty runner, I have no qualms of initiating chat and always drop it in and signpost to the podcast, the merch, and for the price of a cuppa, all the benefits. Thank you for the past year and looking forward to the next chapter.
Awesome. Yeah, thanks. I know you share it. I know I'm super appreciative. Everybody who shares the podcast, whether it's just chatting with your mates, wearing the buff, snood, or your merch. And yeah, loads of love, Eddie, for the spine episode. That is definitely the most popular episode that we have done. Yeah, that was pretty inspirational. I did check the downloads, and it is still.
Oh, is it still?
Popular. Yeah, it's been out there a while though, so.
Oh, you always say something nice and then you put me down. Anyway, there's lovely comments. Thank you so much. We've loved reading them all, and we love sharing our daily, weekly tribulations, the highs, the lows. I am so lucky that I get to talk to one of my best friends and get paid for it every week. We're so comfortable in each other's company that it becomes more and more like just.
But it's going to be a bit strange when it'll only be the second time we've met each other in the flesh outside of our normal. Yeah.
I don't like the way you say that. Well, we're sharing a bedroom, Gary, you know?
Oh, yes.
But it's okay because we're having a threesome now because Tim's coming in too.
Yay! Oh, goodness me.
Full button-up pajamas.
But yeah, we talk about money. You mentioned money there, and I have to say a huge thank you to our Patreons, and we've had a few sponsors over the year too. From where we were, where literally sometimes I couldn't even look Lisa in the face, the amount of times we were spending on it, and how much physical time it was taken, to now where, everybody is on board. Yeah, super grateful to everybody who's a patron. If I see a patron, I just want to give you a big hug, because
big old snog.
It really has. It really has worked so well for us. We had an idea how we'd like to run the Patreon. We see other people, how they do their Patreons, and I just wanted to extend some value to our community through Patreon, and it really has been a success, and just is making the podcast sustainable. It's as simple as that. I love it. Absolutely love it.
And it's also because we don't see each other very often, once a year, our annual meetup coming up, and we put it out there, and you don't know, and then you read people's feedback, just the odd bit of feedback, and it makes it all worthwhile of me sitting here with a blanket over my knees for 3 hours talking to you, that we can just be your company and help you out. And there is something about familiar voices, listening to other people's highs, lows, making it real. So we're here for you. Where this podcast goes now, next year?
Whoa.
Where are we going?
When we win the
Gary?
award, when we win the podcast award. What a treat! We spoiler alert. We sat down with Richard Price just this week, and anyone who's done the Lakeland 50 or the 100 will know about Rich Price. And 2 years ago, 3 years ago, we just would not be able to share the mics with people like that. And I just feel blessed that we can share the mics and then share their story to a wider community maybe than the Lakeland 100 has. Yeah, it's just a thrill. I do get super scared every week, and he'll tell you I'm a bag of nerves.
Honestly, guys. So we log in, we prepare, we do our own research in our own special way, and then we write different questions that we're going to ask, and then Gary has to, I just type them in, and Gary has to
same font, same size,
and they do the behind the scenes. And then Gary has to make them all perfect down the script, the same font, the same color coordinated. And then we log in about 20 minutes before the guest arrives to check that we're happy with what we're saying, we're going to add to anything. And Gary, I have to keep Gary every single time. Doesn't matter how big the guest, how little the guest, he likes it.
No.
And I think that's testimony to you. You take it really seriously, and you want to do a really good job, and you want to be prepared. Nothing worse than it's like being a school teacher asking you a question, like when Mike asked us questions and we didn't know the answers.
Oh my God, I cringe when I did the edit.
But these people are coming on with really big stories often, and you feel like you need to be able to, you would always want them to feel like they're in a very supportive and validate what they've gone through. Because we can't understand it as well, because we both lived, though, different upbringings, different lifestyles, but we've been in, life hasn't been as challenging as some of these people that have come with these overcome these mega obstacles. So it's such a case of privilege. Anyway, in a nutshell, thanks guys. We love you.
Yeah.
One more shout out. This is a special shout out to a very special lady. Don't often talk about I never talk about the athletes that I coach, my little stable of athletes, because I think I've said this before. I believe that's their song to sing there when they do well in races. But I have a special shout out to former guest of the show a little while ago, Sophie Power. She was competing at the World's 24-hour Championship over in Taiwan last week. She did amazing. She finished in 19th place and ran 227 kilometers in what was really pretty challenging conditions, pretty challenging circumstances. Race wasn't easy, but really strong mentally. And she did it. We've had only brief WhatsApp messages. She's been traveling home, but I'm hoping I might catch her just before the race, because she lives not too far from the race start. But she said to me, and I think this is great, she set up She Races and tirelessly works for that, to campaign for women to have pregnancy intervals, for women to have fair rights at races, for women to have fair amount of exposure as men through the media. It's changed a lot of the way race directors view their races and the way that men see and handle themselves in races as well, I think.
Yeah.
And she said she didn't come off that course. She was the last GB woman out there running. She didn't stop, even though it was really, really hard, because she thought not only that she had to go back to her kids, but she also wanted to, GB didn't take 6 females, they took 6 men. They only took 4 women. So they only just had a full team. And she thought, if I don't stay out there and run the course, the funding for women is going to go. And I want to show women that they can do this. She's got 3 children. She wanted to not only show her kids, but other women that you can do you can do hard stuff. So I thought that was really amazing. And she was a true ambassador for what she set up with She Races. So a special podcast shout out, not done it before, won't do it again, but especially for you, Sophie. Awesome race. And I can't wait for our cup of tea, hopefully around Box Hill somewhere, and to plan out what you decide to take on next.
I didn't realize that about the 4 women going out there, and that is 4 for the team. A lot of pressure there then on all the athletes. What a tough cookie. Awesome. Well done, Sophie. Okay, we've had a lot of overindulging, gushing. What have you got coming up? Packing, double checking, unpacking, repacking. Oh my goodness.
Oh my God, I got to get everything into that bag. I booked 23 kilograms to get on the plane. So
I was going to ask you this, yeah.
So yeah, this weekend I'm trying to get all my work done by tomorrow. I'm not going to get it all done by tomorrow. Clothes out, socks out, workout, everything. I mean, the good thing about having done one of these races before is I know what kit works, and I know how much kit I took on the spine and never actually used. So I'm going to try and be mindful of that and not bring too much over. So yeah, packing, sorting out all my work for the next 2 weeks, because nobody wants a plan written by Eddie the week after a race. Just take a rest, guys. Just take it easy. And yeah, sorting out the kids. I'm not going to stress about it though, Gary. When I've gone away for races before, I've been really stressed about sorting everything out for them. I'm just going to walk away. When people light the match, throw it in and then back away. That's what I'm going to do. Everybody will cope. It will all be fine. The good thing is the kids don't break up till really late. So they're just in normal school. It's just normal routine. It's just,
okay. I
normally do the routine, but it'll all be fine. If they don't go to school, what is education? They'll be fine. And looking forward to seeing you. What do you want? What do you want for tea on Tuesday night? What should we have? A little microwavable pot noodle?
Oh, yeah, pot noodle. Yeah, what we got in the hostel actually. What's the
We've got a microwave, Gary. That's it. Should we have a little map search, see if we can find somewhere nice to go out for supper?
Well, that's really up to you, isn't it? Sometimes I would be like, just want to keep it on the low, keep everything simple. I think I had my tea in the youth hostel before Lake 100.
Did you? Really... But it means I've got to cook something.
Do a little search. No,
do a little search. Yeah, we'll have a think. Yeah, that's it. There's nothing exciting. Just got to sort everything out. Kind of exciting, but also
can't believe how fast it's come around. I can't believe how fast it's come around. Best of luck, Eddie. I'm rooting for you, and I know everybody is rooting for you too. The juggle, the graft, you've worked your absolute butt off, and it's so inspiring. I think for everybody who tunes in every week and sees the hustle, and just can't wait to see you shine for 200
Can I just
miles.
publicly apologize as well, around possibly from mile 40 onwards when I'm not very nice? Just no, I love you deep down.
Oh, I could see when you came into Middleton, you were lovely. There was no drama there. Yeah. I'm really looking forward to seeing you too. It's going to be awesome. Can't wait.
What are you doing before then? How are you going to fit all your training in? How is this fitting in the plan?
I think
recovery week.
Yeah, when you say yes to these things, you don't really visualize the actual week. So yeah, next week is a complete right. Oh, see, it's funny how we're recording this because it's a bit out of sync, but yeah, it's just a write-off, isn't it? I'll do what I can do for the 2 days. Take one for the team. It's fine. I think, I run all year round. A low week, a down week is not going to be the end of the world. My goodness, my steps are going to be through the roof. I'm going to be pretty much on my feet for 24 hours a day for 3 days. The next best thing for running or training is being at an event, helping out an event, being either on the crew or being one of the Marshall points. So yeah, I'm really looking forward to it. My Shocks headphones review is out. So yeah, show that some love. Let's break the internet. But before that, this Sunday, got some D miles on Sunday, meeting up with some Sedgefield Harriers. hopefully they will bring over my 2 awards that I won. Actually,
will you run with the awards, just like carrying them to
I'll just be showing everybody. Yeah, fingers crossed, Ray. It's up to Ray, really, if he brings them over or not. But yeah, that'd be nice to see those. There's a lovely little cafe near the Dean, so we'll do nothing like last week. Wow, I'm not going to be spending 6 hours in the Dean, and it's going to be such a shame because I think it's going to be a big mud bath after all that snow melting. Yeah. So I don't know, maybe an hour and a half in the Dean, up some of the nice trails, maybe go to the seaside. I was like going to the beach, but then back to the cafe for a cuppa and a scone. And then, I've got to sort my shit out for Tuesday, before when I come down to see you. So other than that, not a lot of running. I'll just do what I can in between now and Tuesday. But I'm looking forward to my run in the Dean with some Sedgefield Harriers. Looking forward to that. A nice bit of trail, some cuppa, and a catch up with some friends. Okay, that's it. Get the kettle on. Well, I've got to go. If I don't go to the gym now, then if I do the edit, well, this is how I can do jobs. I can go to the gym in daylight. I really struggle when everybody's at home, then to leave the house.
Oh, yeah. I hear that. That's not the time.
For some reason, I can edit late at night. That psychologically is fine with me. But to gym or to run late at night, that doesn't sit well. So off to the gym I go now. But for the rest of you, pop the kettle on. And thank you again to Precision Fuel and Hydration for sponsoring the show. Thank you to all our partners and Patreons too. We could not do this without your ongoing support. Got some mantras for you. Be kind to your future self. Breathe and believe, and progress, not perfection. Are you going to be got some Sharpie for those on your arm? For
Definitely. I'm going to get you to write them on.
Have you got a mantra? Have you got a new mantra?
I like that, progress, not perfection. I think that is a good one for a 200 miler when everything goes wrong. You just need to keep moving forward. It doesn't matter the pace, just keep moving forward. Doesn't need to be perfect. Certainly not going to be perfect. And breathe.
I love it. I love these mantras. And, people saying the things they've enjoyed from the show. There's a few mantras I use there pretty much every week. And then also talking about precision fuel and hydration, that chat with Emily, that's going to be with me now forever, as far as running's concerned. So I get a lot back from this podcast too. Don't forget to like, subscribe, follow, and give us a share. And I've noticed over on Facebook, our group is just under 6,000 members. Come on, let's make it happen. Let's see if we can smash past 6,000 before the end of the year. That will be awesome. Give us a share. Tell all your mates.
Thank you so much for listening. There are loads of other things you could be doing other than listening. So thanks. Amazing. Keep it going. We love that you're all here, running along, driving, folding, laundry. You're all awesome. We hope you'll have the best of luck weekends. Best of luck if you're racing with your long runs. Keep sharing those pics. Why not listen to the UK's #1 trail running podcast and warm yourself up with your favourite brew. Thank you for all your messages of love and support. I'll be thinking about you all out on the route. If you see me, say hi. If it's just a grunt in return, know that I'm feeling the love, but things might be a little bit tough. If you see Gary full on snogs, that's fine. He'll be totally open.
Selfie snogs, I don't mind. I'm not showing you the dragon though. That's a Patreon perk. A new level, new tier for that one. The dragon.
Tier 4 Christmas Patreon.
It's not worth £3.
It's definitely not worth £3. £21. £21, I reckon. Yeah. Anyway, my name is Eddie Sutton.
And I'm Gary Thwaites.
And that was anniversary episode number 50.